And I remember going to, in the span of about 3 weeks, I remember going to probably 30 or 40 dead bodies. And it was then that I'm like, oh my God, like I got to take a step back and take a break.
Season 7, Real Talk with Scorpio. My guest today, just by looking at her Instagram, I could tell she is busy. She's a wife. She's a wife of my good friend, longtime friend, Jimmy Z, who was on my podcast. She's a mother, she's an entrepreneur, and she's a go-getter. Leea, welcome to Real Talk with Scorpio. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. I think we talked about you being on it like last year,
Yes.
and then yeah, it finally worked out. And there's a lot to get into today because you've done many things which I want to talk about on the podcast. But as you know, with Real Talk, we like to build that timeline. So first, where were you born and raised?
A little town about an hour east of Toronto, Cobourg.
Oh,
So if you've ever been to the beach, that's what everybody knows it for. But that's where I was born and raised.
so Coburg. I
Yeah.
like Coburg, little town. But if you were born and raised there, it was probably it wasn't developed back then too, right?
So what's crazy is that when I was young, Cobourg, so it wasn't nearly as developed,
Okay.
wasn't nearly as many houses, but it was a bit of a booming town.
Oh,
Like you couldn't go anywhere without people littering the streets. The downtown was full. We had a mall that every single store was full. When I was a little kid, we actually owned the arcade in the mall.
get out of here.
So we were there all the time. It was so busy.
Mm.
And Jim and I just went back. My husband and I just went back um, because we had to be out of our house because of renovations. So there's a flood, whole nonsense here.
Oh,
But
wow.
we ended up staying in Cobourg for a month and it was dead. There's no stores in the mall. There's it's the way you would have thought it would have been back then.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's got the Flint, Michigan kind of thing happening
Oh,
to it now,
wow.
but it was a fairly active town growing
Mhm.
up. It
Yeah.
didn't, I mean, I didn't know any different. I didn't grow up in the city, so seemed busy to me. So
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right because I had a friend that lived on my parents' street. My parents still live at the same house, Victoria Park in Ellesmere. And my friend Carl Watson, he moved to Coburg like when we were young.
yeah,
So it's funny that you say that. So, but what's happening now is kind of the reverse, eh? I guess you're saying. Oh.
yeah,
But now school day. So you went to school in Coburg then too, right?
I did. Yeah, I went to the East High School. So
Hmm.
there's only two high schools, the East and the West,
Yeah,
which are now all one high school now. But yeah, I went to the East High School for my 5 years because I did OAC
yeah. Hmm.
and went off
Yeah.
to school.
The young kids don't know about the OACs though. I talked about that topic to a few people on my podcast. I grew up in,
Yeah,
Toronto. You got to do the OACs. But I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
wait, it was a small town though. So is it one of
Yeah.
those places where you know everybody?
Everyone. If you don't know everyone, you know like a sibling. Like
Yeah.
you know everybody's family. You know everybody who owns every store, every business owner, you know them all. You don't get away with anything when you're
Yeah.
little. Especially if you grow up on a street where your entire family lives on the same street.
Oh, wow.
So didn't get away with anything.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? We're going to talk about real estate later on in the podcast. But tell me something though. The housing prices were cheap everywhere, where we grew up, but is it still like booming where the prices are high value? Because I know when you go further out east, it's supposed to get more affordable, but now it's changing.
So I think further than Coburg, they probably get a little bit more affordable.
Mhm.
But Coburg is still, even though it's a little bit dead, I think it's still, you still have the beach, which is a major draw for families. And the GO train now goes straight out to Coburg.
Okay.
So the Via has always been there.
Mhm.
So and now that people don't really go to work anymore, you work from home.
Yeah.
driving into the city once a week from Coburg isn't really a big deal.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's increased, the housing prices have increased there.
Yeah. You dropped the beach a couple times. So I gotta ask you, how good is this beach? Because my wife has been out there a couple times. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what's this Coburg beach? Because I've never been to Wasaga, by the way. This is just strange.
Oh,
It's odd because
yeah.
everyone's been to Wasaga,
Yeah.
but Q Beach and everything. But yeah, Coburg Beach is nice then.
It's beautiful. It used to be a lot nicer, I guess, because they used to clean the water and comb the sand every day.
Oh, okay.
So it used to be really, really well maintained. I don't know. I haven't been there in the summer for a while, so I'm not sure if it still is. But yeah, gorgeous boardwalk and like little splash pad for kids and park everywhere. Like it is right at the beach. All of the stuff is there. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I gotta check it out this year.
But it's still Lake Ontario, so it's still
Yeah,
really
yeah,
nice.
yeah. All right. So now school, going back to school now, what did you excel in? Because I'd like to know the history of my guests, and I want to know if it led to their pathway, their career, and their future. But what did you excel in back in the days?
So oddly enough, my favorite subject was law, and
Oh,
I did do really well. English, I did well.
mhm.
Not a math student at all. Can't believe I passed grade 12 math.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's it. English, writing.
I forgot we took law. I forgot about that. Like
Yeah,
anytime I think about subjects, I
yeah.
forgot we had the course in law.
And
That's
it was an OAC course.
yes,
Yeah, so
yes,
yeah.
right. Okay, and then sports. Did you play sports in high school?
Yeah, I played. So my high school year, grade 9 was great. Grade 10 was the teacher strike that lasted for a month and a half. So we
Wait,
didn't
okay, wait.
actually,
Slow down. Let me see
yeah,
it because I gotta find out your age. How old are you then?
39.
You're 39. You're a youngster. Okay. So I got 10 years on you. But I remember when I was in junior high, we had a strike, but is it called work to rule? Like we still went to courses, so not everyone was striking. But you're
Yeah,
talking about that strike. I know the strike you're
yeah,
talking.
yeah. We didn't go back to school until October, I think.
Okay.
And then it was work to rule after that.
Hmm.
But after that strike, nothing went back to normal in my high school career.
Oh,
So that was in grade 10. So there's no sports in grade 10. So
hmm,
you just kind of getting the momentum in grade 9, right?
yeah.
And then grade 10, nothing. And
Hmm,
then grade 11, I went back. Oddly enough, I'm only 5'2", but I did play basketball because there's not a lot of tall people in Coburg, I guess.
yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah.
I did play basketball and I played baseball every summer.
Okay.
But like house league, I wasn't good at anything.
Yeah. But you did the athletics. Oh, you
Yeah.
never did track or anything, nothing like that either.
No, oh, no.
Yeah.
No,
Oh
no.
no, she's
No. Nothing like that.
okay. Now, I want to talk about so people don't know if they don't know you, right? Law enforcement.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you want to drop the. We're gonna get into it, but I don't know if you want to drop the police force that you work for. I don't know if there's
Yeah, I
anything.
don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah,
During
but
recess. Yeah.
yeah. So I want to understand how you got into that, but also, did you pursue post-secondary education?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, I
where
did.
did you go?
So, I went to Carleton University and got my undergrad in criminology. The
Okay,
game plan was to be a lawyer. So I actually got a part-time job when I was in Coburg for the Crown Attorney's office.
okay,
So that changed kind of my direction a little bit and what I wanted to do with my life. So I ended up going to do my undergrad in crim. And then I didn't have the grades to get into law school, and I didn't have the money to do the LSATs
okay, yeah.
prep courses. So I
Mhm.
figured, I'm still gonna be a lawyer, but I'm gonna try to take a bit of a pause. So I didn't really know what to do after my undergrad, and I ended up getting a scholarship with Durham College for a graduate program in penology and youth. So a study of like
Okay,
incarceration.
yes, incarceration.
And I because it was the first year for the course, so they were trying to like beef it up with people who would be employable after.
Okay.
Um, so I ended up there for a year, and it was there that I actually like met all my teachers were police officers.
Wow.
One of my mentors was a police officer. And it was there that I'm like, you know what, I think that this is something that I can do.
Hmm.
I had to lose about 60 pounds
Okay.
to be a police officer because I was very overweight and not in shape at all.
Okay.
So I had to kind of embark on a bit of a fitness journey as well, I guess you could say. And yeah, at the end of that, I I applied and I applied to Durham Regional Police Service and the RCMP.
Oh, you did
And
RCMP. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I was actually just waiting for my depot date. I was hired by the RCMP and then Durham hired me. So it was close to home. I just took it.
You just took that.
Yeah.
Wait, so go back to so you said you weren't at a weight that you were comfortable with and you needed to be a certain way to
Yeah.
do the training and things like that probably. But just fast forward, I seen a picture that you sent me where you're doing like powerlifting. So
Yeah.
you kept up with the weight training and things. And of course, Jim is heavy into working out too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So I actually got into CrossFit
Okay.
um, years ago.
Mhm.
It wasn't long after I had lost all the weight, about a year or so after, then I found CrossFit, and that absolutely changed my life. Absolutely changed the way I work out, the way I view working out
Mhm.
for forever. And yeah, it was there that I was able to, build strength and muscle,
Yeah.
and I've kept it as much as I could, minus, giant weight gain for my child, but other
Yeah.
than that, yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, so I know how you got into policing now and you chose Durham now. How was the training for you? Because I have police officers in my family. I have friends that are police officers, and I asked them all the same questions, especially with the line of work that I was in with Medical Alert now, where I was working with police. So I got the insight on very different things. But I love asking about the training aspect. How was that for you?
So I actually loved it. I loved the police college. I know that that's not really popular thing. People don't really hear that often, but it was the only time in my life that, and I didn't have, I wasn't in a long-term relationship. I didn't have children.
Okay.
So it was very different for me. I was single going there. So I didn't have a lot of commitments back home. And it was 3 months that I got the entire 3 months to just focus on myself. I got to train, eat, got good training. So I really enjoyed that. And someone cooked my food and did my dishes for me every
Yeah.
day. So, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I loved it. I loved the training. Uh, Firearms was something that I was really good at the time too. I grew up hunting. So,
Oh,
um,
oh.
I, I really enjoyed that part of it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I liked the training. I thought it was good.
I was gonna ask you about that. So you trained to be like a frontline officer, is that what,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So firearms training. So you weren't afraid of holding that gun because
No.
you used it from growing up and everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. But of course, this is the handgun, but you also learned to use different type of weapons as well.
Yeah, so yeah, shotgun.
Sure.
And then now, not when I got hired, but now we're also with the rifle.
Yeah.
But my father was actually the president of a gun club at one point in my life.
Mhm.
So I've grown up shooting everything. So,
Okay. Yeah.
um, so that was pretty comfortable. That wasn't an obstacle I had to worry about. So
Okay. And then Jimmy was telling me about the pepper spray. So did you have to do that as well? You
yeah,
did it? Oh,
you do.
wow.
You know what? It's awful. Like
Mhm.
it's really like putting your face in a deep fryer.
Oh
That's
my.
exactly what it feels like. That's what it feels like. It's not just your eyes, it's your whole face that feels like it's on fire. And there is no, you just have to breathe through it. There is no like there's nothing like water feels better for a half a second,
Mhm.
but that's it. Oh, it was awful.
So it's
It
just the time, right? till it subsides.
Yeah, and the more sensitive your skin is I don't know if you can see, but I'm very, very white. I'm very
Yeah,
sensitive.
yeah, yeah.
And so it burns for so much longer. It's like,
Gosh,
so yeah,
that's
it was bad.
that would actually scare me. But I asked Jim, like, is there any permanent damage? And then he was like, no,
No,
no.
none.
But
No, it's all natural.
yeah, I'm like, but going through it. Oh, what about the taser?
So the taser, it hurts a lot, but the difference is when it's done, it's done. Like
Mm,
as soon as that sound stops, the pain is done. There's no residual effects.
mhm.
Like it's just done. So knowing that mentally, it's a lot easier to handle.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And I'm proud of you for going through that. That takes
It
something.
sucked. Yeah.
Mhm. But you
Yeah.
know what? In training for policing, law enforcement, you train how to use weapons and things like that, but you hope you never have to get into a situation like that. Was that one of your fears? Because I guess one of the questions I have is the training you receive, how was real world after you were on the force?
So the training that you get at the Ontario Police College is just a generalized level of training that all officers in Ontario get.
Mhm.
Durham Regional Police Service actually probably has the best
Yeah.
in-house training.
Mhm.
Um, I've never heard or seen anyone do the type of training that we do, and our training cadre has always been great.
Mhm.
So they really do prepare you. They do a good job. Not only when you get back from police college, they take you for so many weeks and train you the way they want you trained,
Right.
and give you a little extra training. But then every year you go back to requalify on your use of force, and they run you through scenarios. It's not like you just stand there and shoot. Like that's the provincial qualifier. You just stand there and shoot. But
Okay.
that's not the way Durham does it. It's far more interactive,
Mhm.
um, and I think it has saved lives.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
great to hear. Yeah, he really gave kudos to Durham Police College. That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, I I have to tell you, I'm an emotional person, right? And I just hear things and it kind of brings water to my eyes. I see insects on the ground, and because before I didn't care about these things like in my house, now I put them in the cloth and I put them in the tissue and I put them outside. Like
I
I
do that
can't kill anything anymore. I'm like getting more emotional.
too.
So I don't know if you know what I'm getting at. Being a police officer, I know of some stories because, of course, family members told me some stories and things, and I see what you see. How do you check your emotions? How do you learn to do that? They train for that probably, but is it natural? Or oh, I don't know if they train for that, but is it natural? There's something innate where you can check your emotions?
It actually took years to kind of, like, you hear it all the time: look after yourself, have friends that aren't police officers, and nothing actually ever resonates with you. And it's not really until, like, if you're lucky enough to have kept friends who aren't police officers, because if you hang around cops all the time, that's all you talk about and you normalize it,
Okay.
and the things you see are not normal.
Yeah.
So sometimes just explaining something to someone and them looking at you like, oh my God, that's not normal.
Right.
That's not, it kind of brings you back down. Like, okay, I got to look after this, because this, like, what I'm seeing isn't normal. Like, I remember one summer, I had only been on the police service maybe 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
So I had a designation called scenes of crime officer. We call them SOCOs.
Mhm.
And basically, um, we fingerprinted break and enters, or mischiefs or whatever. We take photographs. But one of the biggest things that you have to do at the time was you had to go to every dead body. And if they had a fingerprint number, so if they had committed a crime and been fingerprinted in the past, you'd have to fingerprint that body.
Mhm.
And then at the time, we were also still going to autopsies. So I would take all the pictures at an autopsy. And I remember one summer, I was the only person with that designation for weeks and weeks in a row, just because of the way the rotation fell, and people on my shift were away on holidays, doing, other jobs for the summer, whatever. And I remember going to, in the span of about 3 weeks, I remember going to probably 30 or 40 dead bodies. And it was then that I'm like, oh my God, like I got to take a step back and take a break. And my staff sergeant recognized it, and I was able to do a little bit of time off the road and in an office, which was definitely helpful for my mental health in the short term, because after being in the office for about a week, I then got pulled onto a homicide project. So,
Yeah.
I was, but I mean, at least on the homicide projects, they sound gruesome, but more often than not, you are just pulling files and video and talking to actually good people.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
it was a nice break.
You're touching on a lot of things there. I'm glad you gave me some insight because I thought I heard it all, but just hearing it from someone else too, you gave me some insight on the feelings and the emotions and what you go through. And I think one thing that you don't want to do in any job really is to normalize what you're doing or what you're seeing. So people who work in a hospital, they see bad things all the time
Yeah.
and it doesn't affect them. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be in that place, I could probably imagine, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, it takes a toll for
Mhm.
sure. And I think that most people, it takes a toll, and it's hard to recognize until it's almost gone too far.
Right.
And then you've got to kind of get it back on track, and then, you know,
Mhm.
work there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You were mentioning the work hours and stuff. So what shifts were you on? Were you on four off this and like
Yeah.
how did it
So
work
yeah,
for
the
you?
first 8 years on the road was 4 days, 4 nights, or sorry, 2 days, 2 nights, four off. So it's 7 to 7 days, 7 to 7 nights, 4 days off.
Hmm.
It's night shifts are horrible no matter how you slice it. Like they aren't fun. But considering you're only working 4 every 8 days,
Hmm.
and you're getting, and two of them being day shifts, it's not a bad shift.
Okay. So I want to see if you can give advice to someone. Usually on my podcast, I talk to very different people, different careers, some reality stars, people in different things. And I always ask for different advice, but what I want to see if you can give advice to someone that wants to pursue a career in law enforcement. And let me set this up for a minute because the times we're in now. It's like it's crazy how policing is looked at now. Like police officers getting a bad rap. And they put a blanket statement on every police officer. And I have police officers in my family, friends, and then I work with police. So I know good police officers, you know what I mean? So you can't blanket statement that. But also, I'm hearing in the news all the time, and because I work with police, we send out reports to them. And one report we sent out to them last year at Medical Alert is, and we pay tribute, is like the officers that passed away in the line of duty. And I'm like, and then just recently, OPP, like shooting, and like this officer killed. So with that in mind, what advice would you give to someone right now?
Take your training seriously.
Mm.
Um, if I mean, I would say don't do it, find another job. But the reality is you can't convince somebody who wants to get into emergency services that they have any other calling.
Mhm.
So just take your training serious. It's so much better to make a mistake in training than in real life, and you learn so much more from your mistakes in training than you could ever learn from anything you do well.
Yeah.
I can't remember any good situation that ended in my training, but I can tell you everything I made mistake on. And
Wow. Yeah.
so just take it serious, and like it's your job when you're in training. Um, and you should be all right like that. I mean, things happen, but that would be my best piece of advice for someone getting into it.
Mm. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So we're in the middle of the podcast now, right? And I have this question that I came up with 2 seasons ago, right? And the first one you probably heard. people say before, but I added another one to that. It's a would you rather question, right?
Okay.
So let me know, Leah. Would you rather visit your younger self and give them advice for the future? Or would you rather visit your older self and have them give you advice for what's going on right now in your life? Current.
Wow. Um, like I'm gonna say I'd rather go visit my older self.
Mhm.
And because so far, you know what, things have worked out all right. So I'm happy with life and where I am. And yeah, I wouldn't mind my older self,
Mhm.
guiding me a little now.
Yeah, I like to hear it. I hear a lot of different things. I like to hear it.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, this next question is a spin off of that, but it's to do with your younger self.
Okay.
And it's four things. So, what would you tell your younger self about money?
Save it. Save your money and stop buying garbage.
Mm,
That's that stuff will never make you happy.
yeah. I
Yeah.
wish I learned that lesson a long time ago.
I know. We
Yeah.
all do. Yeah.
I had a couple friends that were good with money. I remember when I worked at Mother Tucker's Marketplace, and one of my friends was a server. I was the bartender, and this guy had money and he saved money, and he was like, and I was like, how do you have those? And I'm not gonna say how much money he had. I'm not gonna say his name, but he had a lot of money, and we were in our 20s, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But I knew what I was doing wrong. Anyway, next question.
I know.
What would you tell your younger self about love?
Uh, don't force it. Uh, it's there. And you can find it in the most unexpected places. Um, but don't ever force it.
Nice. Next, what would you tell your younger self about family?
It's it is so much more important than you could even imagine, and it will become even more important. Um, it's everything. It's don't push off your family to hang out with your friends. Don't push off your family for things that are always there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice. And lastly, and you were talking about friends. This seems to happen all the time. I asked a question about family, and then someone always mentions that friend word. So now the next question is, what would you tell your younger self about friends?
They're important. You have to be a part of a community and feel like you are a part of a community. Um, and always do right by them. Even like regardless, just always do right by them. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. I love those questions. I love hearing what people have to say. Okay, right now, mortgages. But before we get into that, when I reconnect, I'm going to talk about motherhood for a minute because
Yeah.
when I reconnected with Jim, like didn't talk to him for years, and then I found him on Facebook or something, right? And then he was on the podcast. But the pictures I seen of you, your belly was popping,
Oh,
right?
I was huge. It was huge.
So now I get to enjoy so many on every page, like Jim's page, your page. I get to enjoy pictures of your little one. So how is motherhood treating you now?
It's amazing.
Mhm.
It's my best accomplishment. It's uh it's everything that I thought it would be and more. So
Wow.
it took a long time to get here. So I did years of in vitro. So it was a long time and a lot of money and a lot of surgeries.
Yeah.
But we're here and he's perfect. So
Beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy. I interviewed um Nicole Holmes. She was on Married or Mortgage, and we had a connection that way too because she had trouble. having kids. And then I told her my story with my wife too, right? She was blocked
Yeah.
on both sides and ectopic pregnancy. But when we were going to try in vitro, they said that it was covered because she was blocked and she couldn't have it, so they were going to cover it.
Oh,
But we didn't go through with it though. So we're lucky to have our one daughter right now. Man,
yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah. It's a long road.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a separate podcast. You probably
Yeah.
had so many challenges and stories and hard times to talk
Oh
about.
my, I could tell you stories for days of all of the doctors. It's funny, Jim and I were just driving into Toronto the other day, and we were like, wow, it's so nice to be driving into Toronto once in like the last 4 months and not 3 times a week.
Hmm.
Like we were at least twice a week for the last several years into the city from
Wow.
Whitby. So
Yeah,
it's nice to it's nice to not have to do that anymore.
of course. Good, good. Yeah, so where are you now? Jim already told me, but give
Whitby,
people
yeah.
know you're in Whitby right now, right?
Yep, Whitby.
Yeah. So you always stayed east then, right? Coburg, Whitby, or did you
Yeah.
come out west or anything anytime in your life?
No,
No.
Whitby is the farthest west I've lived. So, yeah, I went from Coburg to Ottawa to Oshawa to Whitby
Okay. Okay.
to Bowmanville and then back to Whitby.
Oh, wow. Bowmanville's booming now, I heard. Like it's a lot of housing going up there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So now you're on maternity from, are you going back to use
Yep,
Durham
yep.
Police?
I'll be going
Right?
back.
I,
Yeah.
I need a connect in there, I'm trying to get I'm trying to get Durham back in our Connect Protect program. I need a connect, but I tried, but it's difficult, but because
Well, June 20th, I'll be back to work. So you hit me up then and we'll
oh,
talk.
oh, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, now, right now, mortgages. Tell me how
That's
you
it.
went down this pathway, and tell me what you do. How do you help people out in the purchase of property?
So I started kind of looking for something that I could do while I was on maternity leave, substitute my income, and eventually I can. I'm going to be leaving policing
Yeah.
and carrying on with mortgages. I started with real estate. It wasn't my thing,
Hmm.
so I switched to mortgages and much better pace as well.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so I help people purchase their first houses or do refinance. You know, all of us have been in sticky situations a
Yeah.
time or two in the past.
Yep.
So, um, having someone who's judgment free, I can word it to try to get a different lender for you. Banks are typically have pretty rigid lending criteria, but there's lots of lenders who are willing to provide mortgages to people who are just in a tough spot. So
Yeah.
I help with that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to come see you because we want to buy property for our daughter
yeah,
in the next few years. So
yes,
I'm gonna hit you up.
yeah,
And then I gotta ask you about what you and Jim are doing with your new venture in Costa
yeah,
Rica. But even on this, so you know about real estate, you know about the whole situation we're in right now with the interest rates, you know about all that stuff. So I want to get your insight on this to see what you would say, because I had this gentleman, my friend Jason, on. He's a real estate agent. He was great to talk to at the time. But just 2 years later, what's going on with the housing prices and everything? It's crazy.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask you in pieces and, like, again, in kind of advice. What would you tell someone now in the market we're in right now in the Toronto GTA area? What would you tell someone about a down payment and saving up for a down payment? Because some people like to rush to buy, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
slow down.
So as soon as you're ready to buy it because the price is never going to go down.
Hmm.
But saving for a down payment is really difficult. If you have any family that you can have assist you with down payment, that definitely helps because you can get usually a better interest rate from your family.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but also you can pull RSPs if you're a first time home buyer without penalty. So there's always a way. If it's your second property, there are lenders who will, or a second property or a cottage property. There's lenders who will just use the equity of your first house. So
Okay. Yeah.
you'll be able to, yeah, do with a little less down. But
Do you
yeah.
recommend that? Would you recommend that? Because, we have a lot of equity in this property we have. And, we're not finished our mortgage yet, finished paying it off. But it's like, do I dip into the mortgage equity to buy the other property, or do we just keep building that savings?
So everything is going to be a comfort level.
Mhm.
So if you are, I don't know, a little risk adverse, it depends on how you look at it. So generally speaking, the math is the math. That's how it works out.
Okay.
If you pull equity from your house and you reinvest that money in something that is servicing the debt and providing money, you've
Yeah.
won.
Mm.
So you've beaten the bank.
Yeah.
So I mean that's always something to consider, and you got to crunch numbers to see if that's worth it. But anytime the bank's going to give you money
Mhm.
and you're going to make more money on it, then it's always worth it.
Mm. That's a good take on it.
Yeah.
Mhm. But I like how you said it, if you're risk adverse. Okay. Next. What do you think about fixed rate versus variable?
Also depends how risk adverse you are. So most people like the fixed rate because, well, right now everyone likes the fixed rate because the market's
God,
crazy. But
yeah.
even anytime you look over a 20-year span, which is typical, mortgages are 25 years.
Mhm.
Anytime you look over a 20 to 25-year span, variable always wins. Any 20-year chunk in time, variable is always won, even when the rates have gone insane. So over time, you're winning with a variable. The fixed rate, everyone likes that because you know how much you're paying every
Right,
month. And
right.
um there's no surprises. You know exactly what's going on to, your mortgage on a monthly basis.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's a time and place for both. I mean, right now, if you were to get a mortgage, you're going to get a much better rate at a fixed because they're trying to loop you in for 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's ways around that too. But yeah, it just depends on your comfort level,
Mhm.
really.
When we got this property, we've always done fixed, but 2 years ago, it was at 1 point, the interest rate, 1 point something. And this is the first time we did it. I jumped into a variable. And then what do you know? It's just jacked up to five
Yeah,
something. But
yeah.
I don't know too much about the types of mortgages. So let me know if you know this. So I know some people where their payments went up. I don't know what that's called because I think my bank person asked me, like, do you want to be paying the same mortgage if the rate goes up? I'm like, yeah, just pay that weekly. I pay weekly. So less goes to principal though. I'm getting
Yeah,
screwed. But I
because
know
you're
some
on a
people,
fixed variable.
fixed variable.
So
Okay.
you know how much you're paying
Right.
every month, bi-monthly, whatever, or
Yeah.
sorry, bi-weekly, but the division of what's going on in the principal and what you're simply just giving in interest,
Right.
you know. Whereas if you were on a straight up variable, your payments would be going up and down, but you'd be making the same payment on your principal.
You say, yeah, okay. But I know some people can't afford it right now. They're paying like
So yeah.
double, triple. It's like crazy.
Yeah, and if you are in the good thing about being in a variable is if you are in a variable and you can't afford it right now,
Mhm.
it's usually very cheap to break your mortgage
Okay.
and go get into something that's a little more conducive to
Right.
making your
Right.
payments.
Yeah. So what do you find most rewarding about this? I'm sure you felt you have your accolades and thing of being a police officer, and it's a good feeling when you help people out. And I know it's not always good when you're a frontline officer, you experience everything, but I'm sure you've helped people out. But with this industry you're in right now, what's rewarding about this to you?
This is rewarding because it's tied with your money, and everybody has strong emotions about their money.
Hmm.
And this is the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life. So it's important that you're comfortable with it, and that and it's such a big investment. Owning a property can actually be life changing for you.
Hmm.
Not only in the way you live day to day, but also in investment for your children or your retirement, or so you have this huge asset. And so it's really rewarding when they can get someone a little bit of a lower payment. Maybe they can make some bigger mortgage payments, get out of debt faster, get their second property, you know refinance so they don't have to lose their house,
Yeah.
because things can get tough. A big market is people who are divorced. They have to try to buy out or stay in a house, and the last thing you want to see is them go without a house.
Right.
So keeping them in it that's rewarding.
Good. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. What's your preference? Condo or house or townhouse, or what do you think?
House. I've actually never lived in anything else. So I've lived in a semi when I was young, but I've lived in apartments as a student. Lots of fun student housing.
Yeah.
But yeah, but definitely a house. I like having my own property, my own yard, and actually just bought a cottage last week. So
Nice.
in Gananoque. So
Oh,
yeah, Thousand Islands. So
yes.
we'll be yeah. So we'll have cottage rentals soon enough. It's right on the water. So we're pretty excited about that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, Gan and I, we're partnered with them too in Connect Protect.
Oh,
And
nice.
oh yeah, and I was gonna tell you not to ask because I'm not gonna drop her name, but I'm trying to get Kingston Police on Connect Protect and Medical Alert. And we were mentioning Durham, and I mentioned Jim's name, and she's like, "Oh, I know Jim," and then she goes, "I also know Leah," and I'm like, "Oh
Oh,
wow,
nice.
yeah, what a small world."
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, now Costa Rica. Let me know because Jim mentioned it to me first. So this new venture, this business venture, it sounds exciting to me. So tell me what you guys are doing right now.
So right now we are working on the cottage and getting that rented.
Hmm.
We do hope to scoop some international property at some point. But Costa Rica was a month-long traveling adventure.
Yeah.
We're not purchasing there. I don't think.
Oh,
Well, I mean, maybe if the price is right for what we want,
mhm.
but it was a place that we had to see before we made any purchases. So,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
So that's what that travel to Costa Rica was, then you're saying, just to look into everything and
yeah, we had to know, right?
right.
It was one of the places. So Jim probably told you, but he had back surgery and
Yeah.
at one point, and then a little bit of a health scare with his heart a couple of years later. And he was doing some research on some healthier places to live, and he found Costa Rica is a blue zone. So there's only like one of five in the world that are
Wait,
like,
I never heard that term before.
yeah. So the blue zone, it's the most centurions, like, and it's this because it's such a healthy like lifestyle.
Okay.
So there's one in California, there's one in Greece, there's one in Costa Rica, and I can't remember where the other couple are.
Hmm.
And we've heard so much about Costa Rica being this big, beautiful country, well, small, beautiful country.
Yes.
So we had to see it. So,
Okay.
and we knew we would never get more time than while I'm on that leave to do it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we packed up our 8-month-old at the time and took him for a month in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I seen the pictures. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. So that's what you're doing then, the cottage. You're gonna do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So we kind of switched gears a little bit with the cottage, and then we'll get that rented out, and then on to the next.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to just keep it going too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have a plan on when you want to leave the force?
Yeah. About a year and a half.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So back
Nice.
for another year and a bit. Yeah.
Mhm. So let me know. We're gonna do as you know, I do this for I donate to charity. So we're going to do the balloon pop in a minute. But let the people know, if anyone listening or watching, where they can find you if they need help with financing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's rightnowmortgages.com. And my Instagram handle, you've got it on your Instagram there. It's at right_now_mortgages. And right now mortgages at gmail.com. And you can reach me anywhere pretty much on social media there.
Sweet. Okay, before I get into the balloons, I got the real talk question. So you're going to choose either Blue Jays or the Raptors?
The Blue Jays.
Name one challenging thing you had to overcome in life.
Oh, wow. There's so many. um so I grew up with not a lot of money. Single mom, like legit. Dad dropped me off at the shelter. Lived with mom after that at about 10 years old, of maybe 11. And wrapping my head around climbing out of that. So I wouldn't say poverty. I mean, we probably lived at the poverty line, but I had everything I needed and I worked as well. But climbing out of that cycle and not doing what my mom did, and getting educated and taking that one step further, was that one. That's probably the biggest thing I've ever had to overcome in my life.
Yes, thanks for sharing. This is why to me, you're an inspiration. I'm telling you, like, I didn't know you before I met, like, I reconnected with Jim, and then just seeing your page and what you're doing, you're an entrepreneur, you're a go-getter, you're an amazing mother, and happy Mother's Day, by the way, it's coming up
Thank you.
tomorrow. I appreciate you doing this. Appreciate it a lot. Now we're going to do the balloons.
Yes.
So bringing that back, the balloons for season 7. And the charities that I'm donating to for the season 7 is Claws, Kawartha Lakes Animal Wellness Society, the Fundraiser Warriors, and a new one who my Instagram friend Doreen suggested to me, so Make-A-Wish Foundation. So by my hands, the right, the middle, or the left? Which one do you want me to pop?
The middle.
So the first charity of season 7, Star Scorpio will be donating to, charity or cause, is, oh wow, the new one. I like showing it, but it might not show.
Make-A-Wish.
Make-A-Wish Foundation.
That's awesome.
Amazing. All right, Leea, is anything you want the people to know before we sign off? Thank you for doing this today.
Yeah, no problem. And I will contribute to the Make-A-Wish as well, in Star Scorpio name for sure. So
thank you. All right.
No, that's it. Thanks for listening to me.
And thank you for sharing. Leea, you're the first episode of season 7, Real Talk with Star Scorpio, and we out.